Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum and I'm here today in Tallinn, Estonia, courtesy of the Estonian Defense Forces, specifically the Support Command Supply Battalion. We are taking a look at some of Estonia's former military small arms. So currently Estonia is running LMT ARs, the R20 and R20L, 5.56 and 7.62 AR platforms. But before that, they had a wider diversity of firearms. So the typical standard infantry rifle was the Galil, purchased from Israel, with the support of a variety of 7.62 millimeter DMR rifles. A typical Estonian squad was 9 guys. One of them would be a DMR, a designated rifleman, or designated marksman, with a 7.62 rifle. Now, one of the more common of the DMRs in Estonian service was this, the AK4 TP. Now, in Estonian, TP stands for precision rifle, and Estonia had a fair number of Swedish AK4s, as well as also Norwegian AG3s. They had a bunch of G3 rifles in service. Some of these were used with iron sights for the various conscripts, doing their annual, their required military service, but some of them were fitted out with 4-power optics on claw mounts, with bipods, nice stocks, and used as designated marksman's rifles. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this one, and I'll show you what they did to convert a regular G3 into a DMR. Sorry for the interruption, just want to say that today's video is brought to you by Headstamp Publishing, with an extensive catalog of books on all sorts of interesting and esoteric small arms, everything from World War II small arms to Imperial Japanese swords to the earliest of revolvers and Cold War battle rifles. There is something at Headstamp for every firearms enthusiast. Check it out, links in the description text below. We'll start with the receiver markings. We have a Crown C here, which indicates that it was made by Carl Gustafs in Eskilstuna, Sweden. Date of production, so September 1974. And on this side we have the serial number and the 3 crown insignia of Sweden. There isn't any marking on this gun from the Estonians. It's not marked TP3 or TP anywhere. These rifles retain their full auto fire control unit, so safe, semi, and full. Even though they are designated marksman's rifles, there were conversions of existing guns, so there was really no reason to try and go in and mess with the triggers. Magazine is just the standard 20-round G3 magazine. The buttstock put on is just a commercial Magpul buttstock that was purchased by the Estonians. The optic here is really the standard sort of thing that was used by various NATO forces during the Cold War on G3s and, frankly, FALs and other rifles. It's a Hensoldt fixed 4-power optic. The eye cups here have been reinforced with some electrical tape just because they get a lot of heavy wear. And these scopes came with a detachable illumination module. So this would be a battery and an illuminator that you could clamp onto the side of the scope if you wanted an illuminated reticle. Some of those were used, some of them were lost at various times in the field, such as the reality of conscript-issued rifles. Because, by the way, the DMR role was performed by conscripts doing their mandatory service in the Estonian military. They weren't just professional troops as DMRs. The rifle originally had the standard oversized Swedish charging handle, but it has broken off, as they had a tendency to do. And this one looks like they've just put a piece of rubber piping over it, shrunk wrap it down to give you a little bit of a better gripping surface than the raw metal. Now, everything that you've seen so far has been just a bolt-on mount. The handguard is a little bit different because the handguard had to have a piece of Picatinny rail added to it. That gave them a place to mount the bipod, and this is a quick detach bipod. Open it up, flip that lever. The bipod comes right off. These are commercially made by Versapod, and they have some really aggressive feet on them there. And they do extend as well, spring-loaded. So the angled front grip is something that wasn't initially on these rifles, but was added at a slightly later date, and this was done by the Estonian MOD. We pull the front pin on the handguard here. We can pull off the handguard. I think the weakest point of this system would be the attachment method. There are just 2 very small little screws there holding on the Picatinny rail. That said, this is intended for a bipod for a DMR. It's not something you're really supposed to be pushing into like a machine gun bipod. It's just there to support the rifle. So was this a failure point? Yes. Did they reasonably often have to be repaired with larger screws? Yes. But it did work. And I think that pretty much covers it. That is the AK4 TP from Estonian military service. It's not entirely clear exactly when these conversions were done. They were done by the Estonian MOD themselves. They purchased the Magpul stocks. They had the scopes, I think, from original Swedish arms supply. They then purchased the angled front grips. They purchased the bipods. They did the conversion on the handguards themselves. And these went into service in the mid to late 2000s. So we're talking sometime here, probably between 2004 and 2010. Like I said, it's a little bit unclear. It was probably after the debacle with the M14 TPs, which I have a separate video on those, which you should definitely watch if you're interested in such things. But it was probably before the major upgrades done to the Galil circa 2008 or 2010. So that's the time frame. They remained in service as DMRs until very recently when they were finally actually replaced by LMT R20Ls. So I thought it would be cool to take a look at, like, this is one of those cool decisions of here's a country with a relatively small defense budget. They have this equipment available and they have this requirement. So what is the process for using that to do this? And I think the AK4 TP here is a really interesting example of just that. So big thanks to the Estonian Defense Forces for giving me the opportunity to come in here, particularly the Supply Battalion, get a chance to take a look at some of their older rifles and show them to you. Thanks for watching.